So you're an international professional, you're living in Austria, and you've probably heard about this really clever way to start your business, just set it up in another country, right? It sounds so simple, really smart, and, a whole lot cheaper. But what if that popular hack is actually a trap? Let's get into it.
Look, I get it. You're here, you've moved to Austria, you've got this brilliant business idea, and you're just ready to get going. You start looking at your options, and setting up a company somewhere else, like, say, Estonia or the US, it just seems like the obvious, easy path.
You've definitely seen this online. I mean, it's all over the Facebook groups. You read it on the forums. The advice is basically everywhere. Just avoid the hassle and expense of the Austrian system. You can register your company online with a credit card, and boom, you're good to go. It's pitched as the ultimate business shortcut.
Okay, but this is exactly where we need to pump the brakes. Because that super simple life hack, it can unravel into a really complex, really costly legal nightmare that could land you in some serious trouble with the Austrian authorities.
All right, let's dive into this. To really understand the trap, we first have to understand the bait, right? Why is this idea so incredibly tempting for so many smart, talented people who are working right here from Austria?
A quick Google search pretty much leads everyone to the same conclusions. First, setting up a company in Austria is expensive and, yeah, it's a lot of red tape. Second, trying to figure out Austrian tax and social security can feel like a full-time job in itself. Now, there's definitely some truth to those first 2 points, but they lead a lot of people to a third and honestly a very dangerous conclusion, that it's just plain better to register the business somewhere else entirely.
Now, here's the twist you probably weren't expecting. The first huge flaw in this plan doesn't come from some obscure Austrian rule. Nope, it actually comes from a core principle of the European Union itself, the freedom of establishment.
So this principle lets you do one of two things. You can either carry out your business in a stable, continuous way in another member state, or you can provide your services there on a temporary basis. And the key word you've absolutely got to focus on is temporary. So what does temporary actually mean? Well, the European Court of Justice has been pretty clear about it. It's not just about how long you do something, it's also about its regularity and continuity. So if you're living and working from your home in Austria, day in and day out, your business activity isn't temporary, it's continuous. And, well, that changes everything.
Okay, now let's see how this snowballs into the next big problem: taxes. And this idea isn't just an EU thing. It's a cornerstone of pretty much every single double taxation treaty Austria signed with countries all over the world.
You see, all these treaties talk about something called a permanent establishment. It's defined as a fixed place of business, and this is the critical part, that includes a place of management. So what on earth does that mean for a solo entrepreneur?
Well, the place of management is simply where the management happens. It's your home office in Vienna where you're taking Zoom calls. It's that co-working space in Graz where you're answering all your client emails. It is literally wherever you, the director, are physically located while you're running your business.
So the main takeaway here is this. It really doesn't matter if your LLC is registered in Delaware or Tallinn or London. If the place of management is your apartment in Austria, then for tax purposes, your company has a permanent establishment in Austria. And that means it's on the hook for Austrian corporate tax, period.
But wait, the trouble doesn't just stop with corporate tax. The Austrian system has another little layer to this, and honestly, for a lot of people, this is the most unexpected and crazy expensive part of the whole trap.
Yeah, it's an entirely separate obligation that most founders setting up shop from abroad are completely 100% unaware of.
This slide right here really gets to the heart of it, the huge gap between what people think and what's real. The common assumption is, hey, my company is foreign, so I can totally sidestep Austrian Social Security. But the reality? If you're the managing director and you live in Austria, the law sees you as self-employed here, and that triggers compulsory and often really substantial Social Security payments.
Okay, so if the foreign LLC hack is really just a trap waiting to happen, what's the correct way to set up your business if you're living and working in Austria? Let's walk through a clear, compliant path forward.
I hear this all the time. You look around and it feels like every other expat entrepreneur you meet has an Estonian e-residency or a UK limited company. It's this powerful social proof that makes you think, well, it must be okay, right? But here's the hard truth. Just because your friends haven't been audited yet, that doesn't make their setup legal. It just means they're flying under the radar. For now. It's a massive gamble, and trust me, the Austrian tax office eventually catches on.
So here is the simple, logical checklist you should use. First, be totally honest with yourself. Do you have a real, actual business operation in another country with an office, employees, the whole shebang?
If the answer is no, then the right path is to choose a proper Austrian legal form, like being self-employed or setting up an Austrian LLC. If the answer is yes, that's totally fine, but you have to be transparent and notify the Austrian tax and social security offices about your setup.
So ultimately, it all boils down to this one question. When you weigh the supposed simplicity of an online setup against the very real risk of back taxes, huge fines, and a ton of legal stress, you really have to ask yourself, is that little shortcut truly worth it? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.